Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage Eitel.
All right, my name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And guys, we are so grateful that you're spending a little bit of your day with us. We do this each week right here, same time, same station. As I mentioned, my name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. And friends, you're in the right place if you've got questions and you want answers. Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? Should I just sit tight and let all of this craziness blow by? What's going on with interest rates? What is the Federal Reserve up to? Guys, you're in the right place if you want the information, the data, not the headlines, but the real data, the tips, the tricks, the strategies, all of the inside information that you need so you can go out and make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family. I am joined, as always, by my producer extraordinaire, Jennifer. Jen is womaning the Anytime Hotline, and if you've listened to the show before, you know I love your questions. This is definitely a group participation show, so if you have questions or comments, give us a call or shoot us a text. 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. Jen will be sure to get your questions on the air. And if you're listening to the show and you want to double back and catch something a second time, or you want to reference one of the charts or data sets that I'm talking about during the show, at the end of each show, Jen posts all of that information up to MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. There you'll find everything. Links to the website, to the data sets, to the Facebook page, to the podcast. Everything is at MrMortgageRadio.com. But guys, we have a great show lined up for you this week. I nailed myself to the cross and sat through the Federal Reserve's Brookings Institute interview. It actually happened the last week of November, but it was released in video format. So I went through the entire eye-glazing over, boring data vomit. It was well over an hour. I happen to love that stuff, so for me it was a treat. But I went through all of it and dissected his comments and some of the forecasting comments that he made. So we're going to dive into all of that. I think you're going to be surprised, right? Because if you're just running around out there paying attention to the headlines, you're not getting the data. Actually, you're getting far from the actual information because the headlines are just attention grabbers, and then you got to dive into the rest of it for yourself. And we did that for you, so I think you'll be surprised by some of the data. We're going to touch on some of the headlines too, but hey, I want to start by sharing something that I found comical, sad, and interesting all at the same time. So if you've listened to the show before, you know what a big proponent I am of having a really great real estate agent. A great agent on your side can make or break a deal. I've seen it many times over the years. And guys, I've been doing this since 1999 as a licensed mortgage broker. That's when I originally got in the business. I did leave the business for a while and went into corporate finance for a private company, but back and happier than ever to be in the mortgage industry for quite some time. But anyway, since 1999, I've seen just about everything that you can imagine, from someone buying their mistress a condo and the wife and mistress both being at the closing at the same time. Wow, that was a story. If you can imagine it happening over the last, 23, 24 years, I've seen it. But here's something that happened this week that I personally have never seen nor heard of before. And this is where a really great real estate agent can make a difference. So this was a client, wonderful client, radio listener. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Richard and Susan Wood. Thank you so much for letting my team and I be a part of your journey. I am so excited for you, and you guys are awesome. I know we are going to remain in touch and become friends. But anyway, so Richard and Susan bought a wonderful villa, and they got a great deal. And the walkthrough was less than stellar. So the house was a mess, lots of furniture and just dirty things left around. And the sellers said, hey, we're going to do you a favor and leave you all this, our furniture and everything, our dishes and everything. And Richard said, hey, man, I'm not your dumpster. We've got all our own stuff. We don't want any of this. So Matt, their realtor, great realtor, he got the other agent involved, and they said, guys, we're going to have this house cleaned out, right? You're not moving into this. So they did their final walkthrough about an hour before closing, and sure enough, there was nothing in the house, right? And they went on to closing. The house wasn't clean, but it wasn't full of all of the previous owner's things and dirty clothes and just the way it was described. I couldn't even imagine it. So they go off to closing. They're thrilled. Everything's going well. And they're going to do some renovations before they move in. I'm laughing because I just talked to Richard about this yesterday. And so they go up in the attic to see what they have space for and just kind of get a layout because they've got a lot of things to store. Well, wouldn't you know it, unbeknownst to either real estate agent, because Matt rolled up his sleeves and got in there and made sure everything was out of the home, but he didn't do it himself, nor should he be expected to. But he was a taskmaster and made sure that the listing agent and the owners got everything out of the property. Well, guess where it went? It didn't go into a dumpster. It went in the attic. Richard said they're pulling dirty laundry, boxes of personal effects, and this was the most disgusting part of it. A box of dirty pots and pans, like the breakfast eggs that were fried in the pan are burnt to the bottom of the pan. They didn't even wash it. They just threw all this stuff in a box and threw it up in an attic. So even when things on the surface look great, that's one thing. And I was talking to Matt and he was super embarrassed because this guy's rock solid, man. He negotiated them an amazing deal, but I was going to say more importantly, but equally as important, he negotiated them out of their lease early and was able to get the landlord a new tenant in place so that the landlord did not charge Richard and Susan for breaking the lease. And he even got the landlord a tenant who was willing to pay more for the property. So this guy was amazing, but who would have thought to look in the attic? Well, guess what? Matt's going up in the attic from now on when he walks through the property the first time and then when he does the final walkthrough. So guys, we all know what a real estate agent can do when it comes to negotiating a deal, but I just thought this was interesting. You might want to make sure that somebody's got a flashlight and you're jumping up in the attic to make sure that I'm chuckling, but I'm mind blown that was even a thought process for the sellers to just jam all of that stuff up in the attic. But, Richard and Susan took it with a grain of salt. They have big plans for the property. They bought it right. They moved in with equity. They got an amazing interest rate because we bought the rate down with a seller contribution. So a win all the way around except for the dirty attic. And Richard, as I mentioned, took it with a grain of salt because he's got the contractors there. And the contractors are just going to go up in the attic and pull everything down and throw it in the dumpster so the Woods don't have to deal with it. But guys, at every turn, having the best team on your side will definitely make a difference. And Matt has promised everybody, including himself, because listen, I would not have expected it. An FHA appraisal does require the appraiser to look in the attic, but not at a walkthrough. Nobody's, oftentimes not thinking to go through the attic. But that was a first for me. I thought that was super interesting. I thought it was worth a share. So guys, check the attics, check the basements, check everything. But it's still a good time to buy. The Woods made it happen. And as I mentioned, they walked into a bunch of equity. So I thought that was a great way to get the show started, kind of with a chuckle. And then, oh, by the way, don't forget to peek behind the curtains. But hey, guys, you hear the music. You know what that means. That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight. On the other side of this break, we're going to dive into the data, and we're going to take all of your questions on this week's edition of the Mr. Mortgage Show. So you think interest rates have gotten too high to refi? Well, not so fast. There are several reasons people refinance. Sure, lowering your interest rate is one, but there's debt consolidation, home improvement, unexpected medical expenses, pulling out some equity to go buy an investment property. Heck, I even know of one guy who refinanced his house so he could buy his mistress a condo. But let's jump back to debt consolidation for a minute. I'm working with a client right now. His name is Ben. He's going to refinance his house, pay off a host of credit cards, and 2 truck payments. And yes, his mortgage interest rate is going to go up, but his monthly expenses are going to go down significantly. And that monthly savings is going to get he and his family back on track. Guys, if you've got questions, check us out at mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com. My name is Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. I host the Mr. Mortgage Show, and we are always here and happy to help. Check us out at mrmortgageradio.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you heard the man. You are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show, and if you've got questions and you want answers, you can call or text those questions to Jen, my producer, and you can reach her at 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292, affectionately known as the Anytime Hotline, because when we're live in the studio doing the show, it rings here, but we also push that to a question line at my office. So during the week, if you have questions, you can always use that number, 855-462-7292. Hey, Jen, I forgot to check in. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark.
How are you? Are you having a good week? It's been a good week for me.
It's been a great week, Mark.
Yeah, it's been a great week for me too. Man, I'm so happy you're with us. I know you've already got some questions popping over there because I see you jumping around. But hey, before we get to those, guys, I just wanted to touch on that Federal Reserve Brookings Institute comments that I alluded to in the opening of the show. So at 1 hour and 10 minutes into this diatribe, there was a question from the audience about interest rates, and they were talking about green energy initiatives and a lot of other things, but housing was a component of that question, but not a direct question. But here's something that he said, which I thought was quite interesting and I wanted to share. He talks about, yes, the low interest rates caused a bubble cycle, meaning rapid appreciation. And he feels like housing has to go through the other side of that. And his words are, we're seeing that now. So higher interest rates are slowing demand. Now, where things shuffle from here, he didn't allude to, but this is what he said that I want everybody to grab onto. He said, fundamentally in this country, moving forward, we still have a significant challenge with supply and demand. That equation, and you hear me talk about it all the time, and if you want to hear more of that, go to mrmortgageradio.com. There's many episodes that reference supply and demand. But he's saying that his comments alluded to, in this country, it's expensive and it's slow and it's tedious for builders with zoning and permit and land acquisition costs to bring new housing units to the market. And he sees long-term pressure on the supply and demand equation. And that means, guys, at least the way I interpret it, is that there's no free fall from here, because until we're oversupplied, prices have no reason to go down. The cost of money only slows demand. And guys, if you think high interest rates mean lower prices, think about it this way. If you go into the convenience store, the electronics store, the grocery store, you go online, it doesn't matter. You go shopping and you find an item. And let's say that item is $75 and you take it up to the register and you're going to check out. That price is $75 whether you pay cash, whether you use your American Express, which we know you pay every month and you just pay an annual fee. There's not interest unless you have a business card. Or you're going to use your Visa or MasterCard, which could have 23, 24, 26% interest. That cashier ringing you up doesn't say, oh, you're going to pay with that high interest credit card? Yeah, the price is $50. Oh, you're going to pay cash? The price isn't dictated by the cost of the capital used to acquire that, in this case, asset when we're talking about real estate. The only thing cost of capital does is quell demand. And the hope is that increasing interest rates will quell demand to balance the market to slow appreciation. He was pretty clear that he doesn't have intent on crashing the market. Now that could be a byproduct of the higher interest rate environment. But my point is, higher interest rates only intend to slow demand. And if you think about it in that example I just gave you, whether you use your high interest rate Visa or MasterCard or cash, that product that you're purchasing is the same price regardless of the cost of capital. So I hope that helps. I was thinking about that on the drive into the studio this morning, and I thought that might be a good analogy to kind of just paint it through a different lens in everyday circumstances that we deal with. But hey, Jen, I'm going to throw it over to you so we can get the questions rolling. What's question number 1?
Kim is asking, we are retired and earn very little income, but we have a nice amount of money in the stock. What are the options for a mortgage if we buy a rental property?
That was Kim? Okay. Hey, Kim, that's a great question. So we have a loan program that we use. We talk about it quite often, called the landlord loan. And the landlord loan requires you to verify assets, and we review your credit. So assuming you have decent credit and you've got enough verified assets for the down payment and then the reserve requirements. So typically you're going to want enough cash on hand to put 20% down on the purchase and then have 6 months additional cash for the expenses of that property. So that's what reserves are when you're being underwritten for a purchase. So if it's, and I know this scenario only works in fantasy land, but let's say the mortgage payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is $1,000 a month. If you've got the 20% plus $6,000, your assets are fine. Your credit, assuming that it's good and you know decent credit score, you're okay there. Then we're looking at the income produced from the building or the home or the duplex or the fourplex. And as long as the rental income from the property, to use that fantasy land example of a $1,000 expense, if the income is $1,000, just a 1-to-1 ratio, no profit, even money, that's fundable. In the old days, we needed 1.25%. It's called debt service coverage. DSCR is debt service coverage ratio. Sometimes you'll hear the landlord loan referred to as a DSCR loan, and that's what they are alluding to. And in the past, it was required that you had, in that example, $1,250 in rental income, $1,000 a month in expenses, and then that was considered cash flow even and fundable. But the landlord loan allows you to go a 1-to-1 ratio. And here's one other thing I want to throw out. And if you guys have more questions about this, just call me, 855-462-7292, or call or shoot another question to the text line, and we'll keep this going. But the landlord loan has a component to it that's interest only, which is super exciting. So an interest only component for the first 10 years, and then it converts to a 30-year fully amortized loan. So it's a 40-year loan, 10 years interest only, 30 years amortized starting in year 11. So what that does is allow you to maximize your cash flow in the early years. And there's no obligation to keep it until it adjusts to a fully amortized loan. You could sell it, you can refinance it, you can do whatever you want with it, but it gives you access to maximize cash flow by using the interest-only component for the first 10 years. So super exciting for investors. And guys, if you're an investor, cash flow is the only equation that matters, because you want to make sure you're throwing off as much positive cash as possible, regardless of sales price, regardless of interest rate. And the interest-only component associated with the landlord loan is a great way to do that. So great question. Hey guys, you hear the music? You know what that means? That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this break. We're going to take more of your questions and deep dive the data. Sit tight for more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and I'm going to interrupt this commercial break to ask you for a favor. If you know any friends, family, coworkers, or the guy in front of you at the grocery line who's talking or thinking about buying or selling or refinancing real estate, I'm hoping I can count on you to help me spread the word, introduce them to me, to the team. You can do that by simply sharing MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Guys, it's Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. Now, back to the commercials.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you heard the man. You are tuned in to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And guys, we do this each week right here. Same bat time, same bat station. Jen and I are always excited to be with you, and thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with us. It is always our goal to give you the information, the tips, the tricks, the strategies, all the data so you can go out there and make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family. And I'm laughing because I'm flashing back to that story I told in the opening segment about Richard and Susan buying that house and finding all those dirty pots and pans in the attic. Man, that was crazy. But also, too, I was talking about the difference a really great real estate agent can make. And guys, check out reallyGreatAgents.com. ReallyGreatAgents.com. You'll find access to a referral network, and just tell us where you're looking for property to buy or sell, and we'll do the rest. We'll send you a list of agents that we've already vetted, and you can call them. You're not giving them your contact information and then your phone's blowing up. Man, if you're ever lonely, guys, pro tip, just fill one of those forms out, anything real estate related online, and you'll have people to talk to for the next, I don't know how many days, as long as you want to answer your phone. But yeah, this isn't like that. We're going to send you a list of a handful of agents in your area. Sometimes just one. If there's a rock star standout person in a specific area and we know they're the one to go to, we'll just get you in touch. You make the call, you take it from there. But reallyGreatAgents.com is a solid resource if you're looking to find a rock star agent. And if you are a rock star agent, jump on that and send us your info. We'll be happy to have a conversation with you, bring you through the vetting process, and we would be happy to get you on that list. But anyway, I thought that was worth doubling back to because I forgot to mention Really Great Agents. But hey, Jen's got some more questions over there, so let me throw it to her and we'll keep your questions going.
Tina sent this one. I love your show. We listen every week. We're planning to buy soon, but can't figure out if offering a lower price or asking for a buy down is the best option. How do we figure out the math?
Hey, that was Tina? Okay, great. Tina, that is a brilliant, brilliant question. And I can't thank you enough for it because right now, interest rate buy downs are all the buzz. And it's exciting, right? Because as I mentioned in the opening segment, I've been kicking around in real estate and mortgage in particular since 1999. And when I first started in my career, I was going into the business when everybody was leaving because of the interest rate environment of that day was similar. Rates were going up, the market was slowing, and everybody was going back to bartending and selling life insurance. And then I walked in with my shiny new suit, my shiny new briefcase, and I was all alone. But we did buy downs back then. And so when we moved into this interest rate environment, I don't know, we've been talking about buy downs since probably April. And what's funny is a lot of the lenders, the account executives and the sales executives, the people that we deal with when we're accessing these funding channels, a lot of them are super young, 2, 3, 4, 5 years out of college. They hadn't even heard of a buy down. So it's kind of wild that now, a few months later, everybody's talking about them, but I like them. They're a powerful tool. Almost always buying the rate down will lower your monthly payment far more than reducing the sales price by the same amount. And what I mean by that, usually you can lower the interest rate on your mortgage almost a full percentage point with about a 3% buy down. So on a $300,000 mortgage, 3% is $9,000. So if you're buying a property and you can get a $9,000 seller contribution and your mortgage amount is $300,000, you could conceivably lower your rate from 6.25% to 5.5% or 5.25%. That full percentage point drop is far, far more powerful in reducing your monthly payment than a $290,000 mortgage would at a 6.5% or 6.25% interest rate. So I share that because if your goal is monthly savings, then the rate buy down is by far the way to go. And there are several options of interest rate buy downs. Right now, you hear a lot of people talking about a 3-2-1 buy down. And what that means is the first year, the interest rate is 3 full percentage points lower. So let's use that same example. A 6.25%, let's say 6.5. Let's just pick a number. That first 12 months, that rate would be 3.5. Guys, that's amazing. The second year, it would be 4.5. The third year, 5.5. And then it would go back to 6.5 and stay there for the rest of the loan. Unlike an adjustable rate mortgage that goes up or down for the life of the loan at every adjustment period, this just steps back up over 3 years to the initial rate, and then it stays there. That's a very, very powerful way to save significant monthly payment at the front end of this particular transaction. Now, me personally, because I've been around since 99 and I saw what happened in the early 2000s and 2008 and onward when the bubble burst, I like the permanent buy down where you're buying the interest rate down. As I mentioned, it usually costs about 3 to 1. Sometimes it can cost as much as 4 to 1, but usually somewhere around 3 to 1. There's no set rule of thumb. It fluctuates every day. It's priced on market activity. Some lenders are more aggressive than others, but usually 3 percentage points in discount fees can buy you down close to a point. So with that math, you would take that, what did I say? 6.5, 6.25. Let's 6.25, or I think I said 6.5. 6.5 would go down to 5.5, but it would stay there for the whole life of the loan. There's no step ups. There's no adjustments. It's a one-time fee. Your interest rate is what it is, and then you're locked in. You're done. Now, if rates go up from here, you're a hero. You got the house you wanted. You negotiated a good price. You got a rate that's far lower than market. And then if rates keep going up, you're just putting more distance between your rate and where the rate of the day is at that particular time. Now, if rates come back down, they've got to go all the way back down to 5.5 before you're even. And then if they go below 5.5, which if you listen to the show, I'm not a big proponent of believing that rates are going to dip down into the 2s and 3s again. I think we're going to land somewhere in the 5s, but that's just me. If rates do dip back down, you can always do a strategic refinance. And we've got a program that we've got in place where if you purchase a home now with a higher than you would like interest rate, you can refinance and do a strategic rate reduction refinance. And by strategic, I mean we can set the term as specific as you would like. So let's say you're 2 years into your 30-year loan, you've only got 28 years left. We can do a 28-year fixed rate mortgage, a 27-year fixed rate mortgage. We can set the term specific to the loan that we are refinancing. And then there are other advantages to doing the strategic refi. So we try to make it as cost effective, if you will, and as beneficial as possible. So that term specific strategic refi can be done. But my point is, if rates stay here or rates go up, you're already ahead of the game. And if rates go back down, there's a strategy around that to save you some money. So I like the one-time buy down. That's just me. I'm a little more conservative because I saw what happened in the past. But, rates in the 5s and 6s, guys, those are good interest rates. This is not a high interest rate environment. It's only a high interest rate environment if you're looking in the very recent rear view mirror of where we were a year ago. But if you go back 3, 4, 5 years, this is where we were. This is not a bad interest rate by any means. But that's how the buy down works. And to answer your question, almost always buying the rate down will save more monthly than reducing the sales price by that same amount. So I appreciate the question. I hope that helps. Hey, you hear the music. You know what that means. We're going to jump into a short break. But on the other side of this break, we're going to be back for more of your questions. Sit tight. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and I'm going to interrupt this commercial break to ask you for a favor. If you know any friends, family, coworkers, or the guy in front of you at the grocery line who's talking or thinking about buying or selling or refinancing real estate, I'm hoping I can count on you to help me spread the word, introduce them to me, to the team. You can do that by simply sharing MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Guys, it's Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. Now, back to the commercials.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And friends, we are so excited every time that we turn on the microphones and find that you're on the other side of the speaker. So thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with us. Guys, we do this each week right here, same time, same station. We are blessed to be part of this station's lineup and super excited that you're a listener. And hey, if you have questions, call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. Jen, my producer, is standing by, womanning the Anytime hotline. Again, that number is 855-462-7292. You can call or text. And as always, if you miss some of the show or you just want to hear something a second time, when we're off the air, she posts the recorded version of it up to the podcast page. And you can find that at MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. But guys, there's a ton of data there. Links to the Facebook page, links to all the data sets that we reference. There's our corporate information. If you want to learn more about us, check out Mr. Mortgage Radio. But as I mentioned, we are super excited to be with you and always enjoy your questions. So again, shoot those questions to us if you have them. Before the break, we were talking about rate buy downs, and I know there are a lot of questions around that right now. And if you need more info, just reach out to us during the week. I'll be happy to walk you through it. But hey, I'm going to keep your questions going. Let's throw it over to Jen and see if we can't get another one in.
Chuck sent a text. I own my house outright and plan on leaving it to my son. Can I add him to the title to prevent inheritance tax?
Hey, Chuck, that's a brilliant question. I'm going to excuse myself from answering the tax side of it because I'm not a tax attorney. I am not a probate attorney, but I do know that if you add him to the deed with the joint tenants is the category that you want to use, when you pass, it will become his. So, and if he passes, it stays yours. So joint tenants, upon the death of one, the ownership, 100% of the ownership transfers to the other. Now, if there's 4 people on title and they're all joint tenants and one dies, then now everybody has an equal third. So that's the ownership structure that allows it to transfer. As far as the tax side of things, I am going to stay out of that because that's not my lane. And there's another strategy that a probate attorney can help with called a ladybird deed. But again, since I'm not a probate attorney, I would prefer to refer you to one. So, and guys, I can do that. If you need a probate attorney or a real estate attorney, we've got quite a network. And we're happy to help. Just give us a shout or shoot us an email and I'll try to get you in touch with somebody. But great question. I appreciate that. I hope that helped. And as I mentioned, if you need more info, reach out. We'll get you in touch with somebody. But hey, Jen, do we have another question?
Max is asking, we received an offer to buy our house. They want to give us a big down payment and they want to take over our mortgage. Is this legit?
Oh, that's a good question. So, okay, I'm going to answer this 2 ways because my mind instantly went to a strategy called subject to, right? So somebody's making you an offer subject to you allowing them to keep your mortgage in place. That's very, very popular with investors because they're not applying for a mortgage. They're not going through the process. There's no closing costs. They simply give you whatever down payment you guys have negotiated, and then you quit claim deed the property to them, and they start making your mortgage payment for you. That's a very, very popular investment strategy. I'm not a huge fan of it from the seller standpoint. I love it from the investor standpoint. But from the seller standpoint, there's a clause in your mortgage note, almost always on every primary residence. It's called due upon sale. Sorry about that. I need another coffee. Due on sale is what it's called. Due on sales clause. Due on sales clause. Wow, I do need another cup of coffee. And what that means is as soon as the ownership transfers, that mortgage is due, paid in full. So technically, if you do that quitclaim deed transfer and then allow them to take over the mortgage, that mortgage could become payable. And I know there are a lot of real estate investors out there running around right now, banging their hand on the steering wheel, saying, Mark, you're wrong. They've never invoked the due on sales clause. And I've heard that. I know that you can get away with it. I'm not a proponent of taking that risk. They can at any time exercise that clause if you no longer own that property. Now, here's the part that I don't like or another part, I guess, that I don't like for the seller. That mortgage is still in your name. You're still responsible for that mortgage. So let's say the buyer buys the property, gives you the down payment, starts making the mortgage payment. Everything's going great. Whatever happens in their life, now they're unable to make the mortgage payment. Well, guess who has lates on their mortgage history? You, Mr. Original Seller. If that property goes into foreclosure, guess who they're coming to talk to? You, as the original owner. That mortgage is still in your name. That mortgage is what's going into foreclosure. So there's incredible risk on the credit side for the seller. Now, I know investors love it because right now they're inheriting a super low interest rate. So clearly my thoughts on that, I think that's pretty clear. There's risk on your side. Now, if they're talking about assuming your mortgage, right? You've got an assumable mortgage, FHA, VA, USDA loans, then that's a whole different animal, because if they're assuming the loan, they're going through the underwriting process, being deemed creditworthy, and that loan is in their name. That loan transfers to them, same interest rate, same term. That's an entirely different animal. If that's what you're talking about, that's a brilliant, brilliant strategy right now, because if you've got one of those trophy interest rates in the 2s or 3s, your property is more valuable than the same house without an assumable mortgage, because somebody's going to have to buy that with a 6% interest rate. So if you're talking about mortgage assumption, that's an entirely different animal. I think it's a brilliant strategy, and I'd be happy to walk you through the details of both. But if you're talking about a subject to sale, there is risk on the seller side that you need to be aware of. So I appreciate that question. That's a brilliant question, and I'm happy to deep dive that with you. If you need more information, you can just give us a call during the week at 855-462-7292. But hey, Jen, let's keep the questions rolling, see if we can get some more in. What do you got?
Here's a question from Hal. What is the minimum age to qualify for a reversible mortgage? What happens to our house after we die? Do our kids get stuck paying it off?
Hey, Hal, that is a fantastic question, my man, and I appreciate it. It's a reverse mortgage, not reversible, but reverse. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as HECM, HECM, HECM loan or HECM mortgage. But I'm not completely understanding the second part of your question. The first part, 62 years old, is the minimum age for the standard reverse mortgage that we talk about all the time. And guys, if you're interested in more info, go to moreaboutreverse.com. moreaboutreverse.com. You can watch a little explainer video, fill out a little bit of information, and we'll send you a packet. And be gentle, guys, because that's me in the video. I do far better behind the microphone than I do behind the camera. So be gentle. And yes, that's my real hairline in the video. But hey, Hal, so 62 years old, and to the point about your kids getting stuck paying it off, it's no different than a traditional mortgage. If you die with a mortgage on your property and you leave that property to your heirs, they're going to have to satisfy that note when they sell the property or refinance it. So it's exactly the same. All it is a mortgage with a lien on your property. If you're talking about a circumstance where you may owe more than the home is worth, hey, big news, it is a non-recourse loan. They can slide the keys across the table to the bank and walk away with no further obligation if you die owing more than the property's worth. So that's a big plus to the reverse mortgage, is it is a non-recourse loan, and a lot of people don't realize that. So I hope that helped. That's a brilliant question. Thank you so much for that. But hey, guys, you hear the music? You know what that means. We're starting to wind down another episode of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Another week with you. We love coming to you. Hey, I'm going to ask you a favor. If any of this resonated, if you found any of this information useful, helpful, valuable, please, I'm hoping I can count on you to share the show, introduce any friends or family or coworkers who are thinking of purchasing property, selling property. I'm hoping I can count on you to introduce them to me and the team. We'd love to help. We'd love to answer any of their questions. Guys, if you're curious if we can help you in your area, if you can hear my voice, we should be your choice. Give us a call, 855-462-7292, or check out MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Hey guys, have a fantastic week. We'll be here next week, same time, same station.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.